Okay, so if you watched my last two videos, I spent about 30 minutes telling you not to try to sound impressive. Not to spit facts, don't stack credentials, don't write what you think HBS wants to hear, to be genuine, to be reflective, to be interesting. Well, now I'm going to tell you to throw all of that away. Because your resume is the one part of the application where you should actually try to sound impressive. This is your career highlight reel. We want to see big numbers, big impact, big projects, lots of projects. This is where you flex. But, and this is a big but, there is a difference between impressive and empty. And the adcom knows the difference. They're not blinded by big numbers. They know which numbers matter and which ones are just fluff. So today I'm going to break down exactly how to write a resume that is both impressive and substantive. I'll cover the strategic framing, the tactical do's and don'ts, how to use AI without turning your resume into slop, and how the resume connects to the rest of your application. There's a lot of resume advice out there, so these tips are just my 2 cents. And as always, I'm aiming for these tips to be tight and practical. Before I get into the tactical advice, I need you to understand the role that the resume plays in the overall application. Your application has three main components that tell your story: the resume, the essays, and the recommendation letters. They are each doing a different job. The resume is the what. What did you do? What was the scope? What was the impact? This is your highlight reel in bullet point form. The essays are the why. Why did you make the decisions you made? Why do you care about what you care about? How do you think? The essays are where your personality and self awareness live. And like I said in my last video, it would be a waste of your limited word count just to regurgitate your resume in essay form. So don't do that. The recommendation letters are the how. How did you actually operate? Did you burn bridges or build people up? Did you create fires or were you the one firefighting? Your recommenders should be commenting on your character and your working style, not just restating accomplishments. The resume already does that. So the resume is the what, the essays are the why, the recs are the how. They should be loosely aligned, meaning they tell a coherent story about the same person, but they should not repeat each other. Each one adds a new dimension. Now, remember to keep your resume to one page. That's it. One page, no exceptions. If you can't distill your pre HBS career into one page of the most compelling bullet points, that's a signal that you have not done the prioritization work or your ego is too big. And prioritization and humility are literally what HBS is all about. So I said the resume is the place to sound impressive. But I need to be precise about what impressive means to the people reading your application. Adcom are not necessarily industry experts. They're not going to understand your niche technical jargon. What they are experts in evaluating people. They understand who knows what they're talking about versus who is just hiding behind buzzwords. They understand which numbers are meaningful and which ones are performative. So here's what impresses them: numbers that show real impact. Leadership titles, how many people you managed, incremental revenue generation, cost savings, ROI, and payback period, anything in the millions of dollars and beyond if you have it. Cross-functional leadership across technical teams, managing a budget for your team, these are all things that tell AdCom this person operated at a level of scope and responsibility that mattered. For my resume, the things that probably stood out were cross-functional leadership across many technical functions and managing the capital expenditure budget for my entire global team. Those aren't necessarily super glamorous on paper. I wasn't at a startup with a splashy valuation, but it showed real operational responsibility and scope. The next thing to know is that numbers don't impress them as much as you think. Startup valuations can be very fluffy and not substantial. A company can be valued at 50 million and still be burning cash with no real product market fit. Adcom knows this. Similarly, listing that you worked with prestigious investors might sound impressive in a pitch deck, but it doesn't tell AdCom what you actually did. They care about the value you created, not the names you just dropped. The distinction is simple. Did you create impact or were you just in the room where it happened? Your resume needs to make that clear. The next thing I want to talk about is trajectory and growth over static achievement. This is important. Everyone has a different starting line. If you started as an individual contributor and grew into managing a team and a budget in 3 years, that delta is compelling even if the absolute numbers are smaller than someone who walked into a VP title at a Fortune 500 company. Adcom is looking for the slope, not just the altitude. Show progression across your bullet points. Each role or each year should demonstrate a step up in scope, complexity, or responsibility. Next, bold what you want them to see. This is a tactical tip that most people miss. You can use bold formatting on your resume to draw the reader's eye to the most important phrases or numbers in each section of your resume. Adcom is scanning hundreds of resumes. Make it easy for them to find the good stuff. If you save $2.3 million or led a team of 15 across 4 functions, bold it. And one more thing, show stakeholder alignment. One of the most underrated things you can put on a resume is evidence that you've worked across teams, aligned people with competing interests, and drove outcomes through influence rather than authority. When I was interviewed, they asked me what I thought the most challenging part of my job was. My answer? Stakeholder alignment. That resonated because it showed that I understood that impact in large organizations isn't just about technical skill. It's about getting people on the same page. And that's a leadership signal. Next, I want to talk about how to use AI for your resume editing. So obviously there are things that it's good at and things that it's not as good at. Here's what AI is good for. Use it to align your resume with school values and figure out who their target admit is. Feed it the school's mission, essay prompts, and any public admissions guidance, and then ask it for help to identify which ones of your experiences to emphasize. This is the tailoring work I probably should have done between HBS and Wharton, and AI can speed this up massively. You can also use it to tighten your language. If a bullet point is 30 words long and it could be 15, AI can help you compress it. If you're not sure whether your impact is clear, paste in a bullet and ask, would a non-technical reader understand what I accomplished here? And then change it. You can also use AI to identify gaps. Paste in your full resume and ask, what's missing from this resume if I'm applying to a school that values leadership and impact? It might flag that you have no community involvement or your progression isn't that obvious. And of course, there are things that AI is not so great at. One of the top things is writing your bullet points from scratch. If you let ChatGPT generate your resume bullets, they will sound like ChatGPT generated your resume bullets. And here's what that AI slop looks like in a resume. I built models to optimize revenue growth to ensure investor buy-in and impact. So, what did this person actually do? I have no idea. What models? Optimize how? What revenue? What impact? It's a sentence made up of entirely business jargon that communicates nothing. It sounds impressive for exactly half a second until you realize it's hollow. The test is simple. If a smart person outside your industry reads your bullet point and can't explain what you did in plain language, then rewrite it. Adcom is that smart person outside your industry. They understand what makes a good admin and who's hiding behind jargon. So don't be the person hiding behind jargon. Next, I need you to understand something that changes how you should write every bullet point. The interviewer is coming for your resume. At HBS, the interview is conducted by a member of the admissions committee. Not an alum doing a vibe check, but an AdCom member who has read your entire application. And they're known to spend 10 to 15 minutes drilling into a single bullet point on your resume. That didn't happen to me specifically. I got the technical industry knowledge interview where they just grilled me about robotics for 30 minutes straight, but I know people were asked to explain in detail why they chose to change jobs, why they switched majors, what a specific project actually involved, and what they would have done differently. So the HBS AdCom, they follow up, they probe, and they will push. So here's a good rule of thumb. Don't put anything on your resume that you can't defend in a 15-minute conversation. If you inflated a number, they'll find out. If you took credit for a team accomplishment, they'll ask who else was involved. If you use a fancy title that doesn't reflect what you actually did, they'll ask you to describe a typical day. So this is why authenticity matters even on the resume. Yes, the one place I told you to sound impressive. Be impressive, yes, but be defensively impressive. Every bullet point should be something you can talk about with depth, nuance, and honesty, because there is a real chance that you will have to. All right, so let me rapid fire the rest of the advice. Do keep community work on your resume. There's meaningful impact there, and it shows AdCom a dimension of you that your job title alone cannot convey. If you mentored students, organized community initiatives, volunteered in a meaningful way, keep it. This goes back to something I said throughout the series. Be interesting, not just impressive. So optimize for impact. Next, do keep hobbies and personal interests. Remember, I'm the girl who wrote about cats in her Harvard application and put sewing on her resume. Your hobbies signal personality. They make you memorable. I cannot tell you how many times I've talked about my ability to make my own clothes in interviews. Your hobbies give the interviewer something to ask about that isn't work. And AdCom is building a section of 95 humans, not 95 resumes. So they want to know who you are at dinner, not just in the boardroom. The next tip, don't use jargon. Not to beat a dead horse, but it's the most common mistake I see when people ask me for resume advice. If your bullet points read like a consulting slide deck, rewrite them in plain language, please. Next, don't be generic. Led cross functional team to drive strategic initiatives. That could be anyone. What team? How many people? What initiative? What was the outcomes? Specificity is what separates a forgettable resume from one that makes AdCom want to interview you. Second to last, don't copy your resume into your essays. I know I said this already, but it bears repeating. The resume and the essays are doing different jobs, so let each one do its job. And lastly, do tailor for each school if you have time, which you should because AI can do this. Different schools value different things. HBS has impact and leadership, Wharton is quantitative ability and finance. If you're applying to multiple schools, at a minimum, reorder your bullet points to lead with what each school cares most about. Again, AI can help you do this pretty quickly. So, to summarize, your resume is one part of the application where you should sound impressive. Lead with big numbers, real impact, and a clear trajectory. Bold the important stuff. Use AI to refine and tailor, but don't let it write it for you. Cut the jargon, keep the hobbies, and make sure every single line can survive a 15-minute interrogation. As for my actual application resume, well, maybe I'll reveal it in a future video. We'll see how nicely you guys ask in the comments. The next video in the series goes deeper into who actually thrives at HBS versus who struggles. So subscribe if you want to keep going. And if you have a resume question, drop them in the comments below. I read and do my best to respond to all of them. But until next time, bye guys.